2. A Fateful Night. The last 2 weeks before classes began were the best times of my life at Miami U. I knew it was the calm before the storm, a storm that would engulf me and separate my fortunes from that of most of my classmates and even my family. You see, the challenges I was about to face were indeed out of proportion to my basic capabilities. Classes were starting in the first week of September, and although I could attend the classes I had pre-registered for, after week 1, the instructors will be given their official class list, and my name would not be on that. I simply did not have the money to pay the tuition bill. It was a more pressing situation with devastating consequences. Michael's landlady had returned from her vacation and had been informed by some of her nosy neighbors that 2 black guys were now living in her upstairs flat. With the assistance of her son, who was about 4 to 5 years old, she confronted Michael with an ultimatum that under no circumstance must he allow anyone to share his room. She claimed her permit was for a single dwelling space. Actually, she warned Michael in front of her son that if this situation reoccurred, she would expel Michael himself from the premises immediately. Indeed, she had a very deceitful way of checking up on him. Michael told me that very Sunday night, about 9 p.m., he heard a knock on his door. After inquiring, he heard her saying, "Michael, I had some brownie cookies that I forgot to offer you, so I just brought it up." As he opened his door, he could see her straining to see if anyone else was in the room. He just decided to open the door as wide as it can go and accommodate her prying eyes. "Here you are, love. Better late than never. Enjoy," was her rejoin as she turned to go back down the stairs. My first night of being homeless in Oxford was that Sunday. I wandered around the town in the dark spots for about 3 hours, until around 2 in the morning I found an alleyway and crouched down in a corner crying profusely. You see, Oxford had a series of narrow passages which acted as rites of passage for houses that were built off the main road. As the town expanded, these became shortcuts for pedestrians, as roads were now constructed to the back of these off-the-beat housing, giving them full access and adequate passage. Few of these houses had been converted to bars or pubs, as business owners craved the proximity and easy access to and from the main road to maintain the traffic of student customers. On the social nights, Fridays and Saturdays, you could find lots of students using these alleyways to move from one joint to another. The additional advantage was that these alleys allowed only pedestrian traffic. They were too narrow for any car to transverse. We were now into the first week of classes, and I was desperately trying to compose a routine that would get me to Michael for a shower and a change of clothes while his landlady was absent. Michael's landlady worked at the post office on Brown Street, which was about 5 blocks away from her home. I soon realized that between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. each workday, she would be safely at work. and so would most of her nosy neighbors. The plan now was to arrive at Michael's flat, which was on South College Avenue, about 10:15 a.m. And once his landlady's car was not parked in front of the residence, I could safely assume that she was at work. During those few hours, I would take a quick shower, change into a clean set of clothes, wearing an extra sweater because the nights were getting colder, and then leave to attend my first week classes on campus. This arrangement seemed to irritate Michael more than it did me. He was the worrying type. I suppose he never had to develop that notion of the hustle back in rural North Carolina where he grew up. If the south side of Dayton, Ohio produced you, it was sure bet that you would have had ample opportunities in your past to learn how to improvise just so that you can keep on living. Michael's complaint every day for the first week was that this was not, to use his favorite word, sustainable. Sure, it wasn't. But what the hell was I supposed to do? The first 3 nights of homelessness were beginning to wear me down. Looking for a new hole or rock to climb under could not be my fate after 3 years of adoration and glory as a prime star athlete at Miami University. The worst part was that I had no money, and so I was having to go to sleep hungry. In other words, if the cold did not keep me awake, the hunger surely did. Hunger and hopelessness were the recipe for deep inward pain. My best friend Michael, God bless his soul, started to leave me some morsels from his meager breakfast. I had to be stuck with a best friend who was not big on large breakfasts. Let's talk about Negro kids growing up in the South with creamy grits, bacon, fried eggs, and crumbled sausage must have been a myth. Things started to catch up with me by the first Friday night of my homelessness. I was just wandering about in the alley near Mac and Joe's when I heard someone call out my name. I know, normally, one gets excited when someone calls out your name. But believe me, when you are trying to move around incognito with nowhere to go, it is the worst thing that could happen to you. Someone from your pre-homeless days recognizing you. This was a group of guys from the track team. Hey guys, look who's here, Eric. Man, how have you been? You don't look well. Come on, join us for a beer. I recognized them all. They were the guys with whom I ran track. I tried to feign a surprise and pleasure in seeing them again. Hi guys, good seeing you guys again. Actually, I was just looking for some place to eat, not drink. No problem, said the leader. They got chicken and chips at Joe's. Come on, be our guest. As they cajoled me into the bar, I started to wonder if this was really a solution to my most pressing problem at the moment, hunger. I made it clear to the gang that I had no money for beers and that I badly needed to eat something. The leader of the gang ordered the first rung of beers and a large chicken and chips just for me. It is not easy to be sitting in the company of former teammates, listening to a lot of chat, while at the same time struggling to focus on what was being said. It really did not matter to them that I was not fully engaged. They were loud, and the laughter dominated the small talk. When the waiter came around a second time to announce that I could not get the chicken and chips, my heart sunk to the floor. It seemed as if the cook had not returned to campus. I closed my eyes for a minute and then opened them to hear her saying that she can quickly put together some chips for me, if that would suffice. She left and returned with a full plate of fried potato chips, which everyone felt at liberty to partake. I had no idea how long we had stayed at Mac and Joe's, but at some time my stomach began to feel very heavy and my head very light. I got up in a flash and said, "Guys, I have to go, no shit." I think I got up too fast because I fell back down between the chairs and the table. "He ain't going no way soon," laughed one of them. "Man, he's as drunk as a fish," was the lead refrain. "We better take him home. We can't leave him like this." Despite all my protestations, they insisted in bundling me into a pickup truck that one of them was driving. "Where are we going, Eric? Where do you live?" Oh my God, that is the second worst thing to happen to you when you are really homeless. Hearing someone call out your name and then being asked the question, "Where do you live?" I could only think of Professor Willis's address, so I gave them the direction. Now, this was not a residence for any of the off-campus students at Miami University. It was actually a gated community. "Wow," someone said. "What you doing living in there?" "I'm staying with my uncle for the time being," and off we went. I had no idea how this would play out. Maybe we will be stopped by the guard at the guard booth, whom, if I am lucky, would know me. Then maybe I could ask him to stay in the booth until I sobered up enough to be on my way. When you're on the hustle, you just have to keep on thinking and thinking fast, even if you are not sober. As we approached the gates of this community, I heard a familiar voice say, "Can I help you, gentlemen? We're taking him by his uncle." I raised my head just in time to see Russell, who was working the night shift. I mumbled off, "I'm staying by the professor tonight," and he proceeded to open the gates, giving the driver directions on how to get to the apartment. As we arrived in front of the apartment, I attempted in vain to get them to leave. "Nah, man, we have to make sure you get in alive." Now, there were usually 3 sets of small security measures in this gated community. First, you had to get through the gate, which was manned 24/7 by a security guard. Then the apartments were set in blocks of 4, 2 upstairs and 2 on the ground level. Professor Willis's one was the first door on the ground level to the left. However, none of the apartments opened out to the parking in front. There was only one access door that did that, and its lock was triggered by a remote card. Once you had entered that door, you would now have access to 2 doors on the ground level and up the stairs to the upper apartments. Fortunately for me, the front door was unlatched, so as I pushed it open, the guys drove off with the surety that I was safely indoors. I leaned up against the prof's door and with much reluctance rang the bell. It took some 15 seconds before I heard some rustling on the other side. the door chains being removed and the door being cracked open. Eric, what the hell are you doing here at this time of the morning? Prof, please help me, please. I started to plead with sincerity. I have nowhere to go. I am homeless. What? He said, as he pulled me in and closed the door. At that point, I collapsed on the floor right at his feet. Are you drunk? More than that, Prof. I am very, very sick. Can I use the bathroom? I remained in the guest bathroom for about 15 minutes. Fortunately, when the prof appeared at the door again, he caught me leaning over the bowl with my body shaking uncontrollably. I am sick, Prof. I am feeling very cold. After then, my memories of that dreadful night faded into another dimension. I do remember him taking off all of my clothes. I mean all. My shoes, socks, pants, underwear, jacket, and shirt. Then I do remember him nudging me into the tub which was filled with hot water. At first, I reacted nervously to the high temperature, but soon I was being lulled into a trance in this hot tub. Most of what occurred before I woke up in the emergency ward of the university hospital had to be told to me by the professor and others. Professor Willis seemed to have had two warnings that something was seriously wrong. The first came when he witnessed me going through a chill spell with all my clothes on. Fortunately, he had filled up the bathtub in the guest bathroom with the intent of having a soothing and relaxing bath. I remembered him in one of our earlier exchanges saying that he was disappointed that the complex did not have a swimming pool. Reminding him that it would soon be winter in this part of the country, I joked that he could always fill the bathtub in the guest bathroom and have himself a dip. He chuckled at that suggestion. That night, when he realized that my body temperature was too low, he decided to totally undress me and dip me into the warm water of the tub. It was a little too hot at first, but my body soon adjusted and I became a little more conscious. Then, I'm told, he pulled the plug on the tub, soaked me down entirely, like if I were a little child having my first bath, dried me off, gave me a t-shirt which was obviously oversized for him, but fitted me just tight. I'm not sure how he got me into the guest bedroom, but that was when he witnessed the second alert. It seemed that he had gone into his kitchen to bring me a cup of hot tea. When upon his return, he noticed that my eyes were completely turned upwards. As he would say, when I saw the white of your eyes, I panicked and called 911 for an ambulance. He soon instructed Russell at the gate to look out for the ambulance and asked them not to use their siren and to direct them to his flat. Eric is seriously ill and we have to get him into the hospital right away. All I remembered was waking up with a white light shining down in my face and a group of strangers dressed in white at my side. Really, for a moment, I thought I had died and gone to heaven. Not my luck tonight. Where am I and who are you? Relax, Mr. Johnson. You are in good hands. You were brought to the emergency ward by some good folks earlier this morning. We immediately operated and found out that you were suffering from acute alcohol poisoning of the liver. As the person in charge kept recounting, I had exhibited all of the classic symptoms at that time: whites of the eyes, jaundice; swelling in the legs, ankles, and feet due to a buildup of fluid, edema; and swelling in my abdomen due to a buildup of fluid. We have been operating on you to help your liver to flush out most of the toxins, the nurse concluded. And we believe we are making some progress, given the fact that you have regained consciousness. But it was the last statement of the attending physician which caused me the most alarm. In an attempt which I suppose was meant to give me some reassurance, but which, unknown to them, had the opposite effect, the doctor said, "A few more hours of treatment and observation, and we should be able to discharge and send you happily on your way." Send me happily on my way? What are these people talking about? Are they really going to send me back into the streets of Oxford and to homelessness? The thought of being sent back to living on the streets of Oxford was the stimulant that forced me into a new awakening. I thought of two persons immediately. First was the professor, because by now I had figured that it must have been he who brought me to the emergency ward. If I could only get them to release me back into the care of the professor, I would be most grateful. The second person in my thoughts was Michael. Where was my most trusted advisor? I needed his confidence at this very moment. I decided to act like I was going crazy and to ask them to bring my father to me. Every black kid knows how and when to act crazy. It is a survival skill that kicks in at the deadliest of times. I had to think quick. "Where is my dad?" I started to shout recklessly. "I want my dad." I had started to make such a fuss that both the doctor and the two attending nurses left the room in a hurry. I just assumed that they would be looking for the dad that I never had. I had no idea that I had just opened the curtains to a brand new set of drama in my life. Unknown to me, Professor had given the ambulance driver my student ID card. This was why they knew my name, even though they did not really know my circumstances. The second was that my reference point was the professor himself. He had indicated to them at the registration desk that although he knew who I was, he had no relationship to me. Best of luck to them in finding me a dad. I was not surprised when the first person I remembered entering the room after the staff had left was Michael. Thank you.